to a cost of living issue. We're already being warned of steep fuel increases potentially next month. That will inevitably have a knock-on effect on food prices. And while our food inflation has been relatively stable for the past few months, it's still high. It's around 12%. This week, Agri SA is really concerned. They're warning government about cabinet plans to create an action plan on food prices. And they're calling for a meeting with all agricultural stakeholders. The Agriculture Minister is cautioning that, or rather the Agri SA is cautioning that trying to control food prices could have unintended consequences. So let's bring in Christo van Rheede, CEO of Agri SA. Mr. van Rheede, thank you so much for joining us. You know, on the face of it, an action plan on food prices set up by government looks like a potentially good idea because food prices are still very high. You seem to be warning about unintended consequences. Talk to me about some of the lessons that have been learnt from government intervention on food price control.
Good evening, and good evening to all of your viewers. I think it's important that we keep government as far away as possible from determining food prices. Let the free market do its work. We were very fortunate in South Africa that our agricultural sector responded during COVID. It again responded positively, especially with the Russian invasion into Ukraine. And today, South Africa boasts with one of the lowest consumer price indexes throughout the world. It has lowered to 4.5%, and our food inflation is also lowering. But I think the biggest challenge for us is, first and foremost, there is enough food in the country. But we all agree that food has become very, very expensive over time. But this has nothing to do with the agriculture sector driving our prices or any other parts of the value chain, because we are very conscious about the fact that people must eat. But there are external factors and internal factors. And once you get government to start meddling and try to manipulate food prices without considering and navigating throughout all of these factors, then you're going to have serious challenges. It might lead even to empty shelves at the end of the day.
So just talk me through what could happen.
First and foremost, remember, farmers depend on inputs. What are those inputs? They require diesel, they require fertilizer, they require labor, they require electricity. And all of these things add to our input cost. And if we've seen a massive increase in the price of diesel, in the price of electricity, we've seen the impact that load shedding has had on the entire value chain. So farmers need to have to contend with that and still continue to plant maize, to rear cattle, so that we can feed the nation. And you cannot afford a situation where government wants to determine your profitability at the end of the day. Because remember, farmers are price takers. They sell their produce to the rest of the value chain. And then all of these factors that I've mentioned, high diesel cost, load shedding, this has a massive impact on the rest of the value chain.
Sure, I hear you.
Our food processors,
does government give, sorry to jump in, does government give any subsidies to farmers, any support for farmers, financial or otherwise, whereby they could say, look, we're kind of helping you along. We need to control the price a little bit. Let's say we need to make sure that at the end of the day, a government loaf doesn't go beyond a certain amount. I mean, do we still have that in place around government loaves?
No. Remember, when we liberalized the agriculture sector post-1994, these maize boards and all the other boards fell away. So price is now determined internationally and locally. And I've said earlier, all of these inputs determine the price that the consumer eventually pays. But what is important is that South African farmers do not get the producer support that our counterparts in Europe and in America gets. Yes, we are thankful that we still have a diesel rebate and that the diesel rebate has been expanded to food processors, and that is something that we really welcome. But remember, there's other external factors. The war in Ukraine has pushed up fertilizer prices, packaging prices, shipping costs. internal factors such as load shedding and
We
all
know
of these
that,
other things
yeah.
play a massive role.
I'm just trying to get an understanding, because I think from a consumer point of view, people might go, oh, this is a great idea. Am I hearing as well that you're concerned about being left out of any process of discussion? Whereby, because my understanding, it was the economic cluster that set up this task team, and you're concerned perhaps as agricultural stakeholders that you need to be able to clearly give your input. Is that part of your concern as well?
That is a very big concern, because you cannot have these discussions without the inputs from the professionals from the sector. We understand these things, and we know, how to, at the end of the day, ensure a positive outcome for the consumer. But we must be very careful that this is not used for political purposes. Remember, there's an election, and government will try anything to make sure that people vote them back into power. And these are some of the dangers. There's a political danger, economic danger, as well as other dangers that we foresee if government starts to get, or government starts to determine price.
Right, thank you so much for speaking to us. Christo, CEO of Agri SA. Let's move